This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel scum.
Happy New Year. It's New Year's Day for real. We did record this early. This is Ranking Star Wars. We do it every year. This is our 8th one. We've done it for 7 years now, Brock. 7 years. We can't. And we're like, no movies are coming out. How's it going to change? I'll tell you how it changes. We ask more and more people every year. This year I cut it off at 47 because my math also really. I have the calculators going, my hands going. I don't know what's going on. And then eventually I just make up whatever order I want. And so you'll notice that today, this year the order is Return of the Jedi, Phantom Menace, and Solo are 1, 2, 3. Bam, bam, bam.
Bam, bam, bam.
That's how it goes. I'm James. This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Joining me today is Brock, Disney Desi, and executive producer Heidi Fetter. I did it in the order that if you look around the screen, that's how we do it. How's everybody doing out there, guys?
Great. Just finished watching the Mummers Parade on TV. So.
Oh.
This year's going to be Wizard.
Yes.
Wow. Look at that. 2024. Brock, any Star Wars plans in 2024?
I want to go back to Galaxy's Edge if possible. I haven't been to Florida in a while, so and Desi's content's always she can just drive there, and I'm like, I have to take 3 planes. No, just 1 plane. I don't know. I definitely hope we get the things we were promised, and hopefully a release date. But who knows?
Yeah. Desi, anything Star Wars related that you're looking forward to in 2024?
My kids got lightsabers for Christmas, so hopefully they will not be destroying anything in my house. But excited for them to get more into it. Also, they found out that Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader are the same person.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a shock.
Was
it was a shock.
Did you videotape that? That's one of those things where you're like, whoa.
Well, because they got their lightsabers and they were like, you be Anakin and I'm going to be Darth Vader. And I said, but they're the same person. And they looked at me like, what?
That's amazing.
Wow.
I think I posted this, but just have them fight. Just tell them they're in the world between worlds. And I think they can fight each other.
Yeah.
That's
There
true.
you go. Oh, Filoni, get on it. Heidi, what about you? Anything in 2024 Star Wars?
I'm looking forward for everything. Actually, I last month I stayed over my sister's. Her husband went on vacation, so she lives in the country. She doesn't like to stay alone, so I stayed with her for 4 days. We watched Ahsoka. She hadn't seen Ahsoka before. She usually waits till I stay with her for a couple days before she watches Star Wars. So anything, I want more of it. I want to know what's going on with Mando. I want to know Grogu. I'm curious to see where the story's going with Emperor Thrawn.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's
Ron.
in the series or maybe it's not even gonna be wrapped up till they do the Heir to the Empire / Mandalorian movie.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
I'm just hoping stuff is coming out in 2024 because I'm afraid we might have to wait till 2025.
Yeah, with all the strikes. I think Skeleton Crew and Acolyte are coming for sure, and then we got the animated Tales of the Jedi and Bad Batch are coming. I'm really looking forward to Acolyte. I think that's the one. I hope that's the one that kind of sneaks up on us with Wookiee Jedi and things like that happening. I'm very excited, but what I'm looking forward to the most this year is this rankings.
Yeah,
This is it. This is the best thing all year, and then everything else is down.
It's all downhill from here. Thanks everybody for joining us on this show. Let's start off with Heidi's number 1. Always special.
He made a lower third. Wow.
I did. I just did this for fun. It's not actually. This doesn't count towards our list. It's only the 11 live action theatrical films is how we are doing this. It has to be live action and had to have been in the movie theater for at least 2 days, just like the Oscar, or a week or whatever, just like the Oscars. It's the same criteria as that. So that's how we're going to do it. Holiday special, Heidi. This is Heidi's favorite piece of cinema. But one thing I will say about the holiday special is I mean, there's the Disturbance in the Forest documentary that Heidi watched. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if you have, Desi. But also, like, there's been the embracing of this disaster over the last little while has been spectacular. And so I think it's fun. I don't think we need to watch it necessarily, because I think some people would lose the magic of what it is, but I think it's fun, like the Disney World, Disneyland stuff that they have, and the books and whatnot. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I'm just thinking. You said it has to be in the theater for a couple days. Weren't the Caravan of Courage movies in European theaters?
Yeah, it was just
North America box office. Oscar. These are the Academy Award criteria. I said has to be LA, New York. There's only like 2 cities.
Tulsa. I was thinking the same thing when James said that, Heidi. I was like, oh, I was like, did the Ewoks movies ever hit the theaters? But who cares if it did? Do that now. Like, how cool would that be if they were to release Caravan of Courage, Battle for Endor, and the holiday special in theaters? Like, I would spend money. They would make money on that. I don't know if they could get the holiday special because of whether or not George Lucas burned all the copies, but like, but you know what I mean? Like, that would be a smart move. Just all 3 together. I mean, yeah.
If they're releasing Luca and Soul and Turning Red all this year, why not do with some older Star Wars content too?
Exactly. I thought it was like, are those Star Wars characters I don't know? And then I remembered. I'm like, yeah.
Bob Iger, you got to get on. Bob Iger watches us weekly, so he probably is taking these notes down.
He's
all
a
right,
big
let's
fan.
get to. Yeah, he's a big.
Actually, my understanding there is a good copy out there. It was actually it's a joke, but apparently Carrie Fisher asked for a good copy, and she always joked that she played it at parties to get guests to leave. So if that's true, then there is a good master copy in the Fisher estate. Now maybe they burned it. I don't know.
Billy Lord plays it now for everyone. Like, get out of my house. All right, let's go to the official rankings. We're gonna start with number 11, obviously. What any suspicions as what number 11 and what number 1 could be, Brock?
It could be anything, James, because the 2 of us did random selections. We did not choose our favorite. I don't know what you did, but I downloaded a dice throwing thing, literally gave each one the chronological number, and when they got rolled, they went. So it blows up in my face immediately because you can't roll 1 on 2 dice because it's 2 dice to get all the numbers. So Phantom Menace was number 1, so I inverted that thing. And I'll tell my list later, but anything is possible. Wild card, baby.
Anything you think for the last in the tops?
Can I say what I hope or what I think is going to
happen? You can say whatever you want. Yeah, you can. By the way, all the lists though are like, when people send me lists, I don't share them. They're confidential lists because this is serious stuff and people don't want other people to know what their rankings are. But you can go ahead and say what you hope.
Yeah, no, I'm convinced that this is the year The Last Jedi is going to be number 1 and The Rise of Skywalker will be 11.
You know what? I would back that. Like, I don't trust the other 43 other people to go 43. I don't know. 47. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. But like Last Jedi number 1, when it first came out, I'm like, this should be number 1. I think I voted number 1.
You did.
So it's just like, yeah.
Heidi, anything? What do you think?
Chance just came in with a new flash. Phantom Menace is number 11.
Oh!
All right. Well, let's go right into it then. Number 11. Is it The Last Jedi? No.
No way.
It's Solo, a Star Wars story.
I love Solo.
Me too.
Yeah, so the problem I think with Solo is it's like the forgotten Star Wars film, and I feel like when people do the rankings, like, oh yeah, it's Solo, and they just kind of throw it at the end. I also think that is a little bit the cinematography could have been a little bit more appealing to look at. I think when you look at Andor versus Solo, if it looked like Andor, I think people would have been drawn more to it. But I think the story, the characters, I think everything about that's fun. But something has to be at the bottom. and it's for some reason it's Solo: A Star Wars Story. I think this is the second year in a row that it's seen itself at the bottom of our list. Heidi, what do you think of Solo at number 11?
Like I said, if you went into Solo expecting Shakespeare, you're going to be disappointed. If you went into Solo for a fun movie, that's what you were going to get. I had a good time. I wasn't bored at all. There were no trade negotiations. You know, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I think there were some amazing scenes. My sister, who was the biggest Han Solo fan, watched about 20 minutes of it and turned it off and said, I can't get into the...
I think it gets a bad rap just because Alden is not Han Solo, or he's not Harrison Ford.
Right.
Just CG a young Harrison Ford's face on him. It's a great movie and everybody would love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit I have it at 8, so I don't have it up. And I just want to add, if I have something, I mean, my list isn't like, this is amazing, I hate this. It's like, this is my favorite.
Yeah.
I like, my bottom is, I like it.
I have this is my favorite, this is my least favorite, and everything else I love.
That was taken into the accounting of this. Brock, Solo. We saw it twice in the theater, you and I.
Yeah. That was like one of the last few that we saw. Well, no, I mean, that was the last one I think we saw before you moved. So I think the Rise of Skywalker is the one where we had like travel and all that.
Oh my god, the snowstorm. Yeah. The snowstorm.
Oh, the snowstorm. Yeah.
What's a snowstorm?
It's kind of like
hold on a second, hold on.
The return.
And the first time I was there in Florida was 1977. No, 78. And I was 5 years old. And it was the first time it snowed there in years.
Oh.
The ride was 80. We went to Disney World. There was only the Magic Kingdom time. And we arrived the day before. It was 80 degrees. The next day it was snowing and 30. Wow. We were like crying because we left. We don't see snow in Orlando.
That's horrible.
It's that white stuff on the Matterhorn. Snow.
Oh.
That's snow. Yeah.
I thought that was like just something they made up for Hoth. I didn't realize it was real.
It was salt. It's salt, like on crate.
Oh, okay.
We had 2 snowstorms though for Rogue One and Rise of Skywalker. 2 snowstorms. Arguably the 2 best Star Wars movies in the Disney era.
Solo's great. More Chewbacca, the better. It's awesome. Boom.
All right, number 10. Do we have Last Jedi?
Yeah, makes sense.
This one was on last for a long time. One thing though I've noticed is because we're asking different people every year, the younger, well, they're not young anymore, but the people, the adults who were kids when the prequels came out have really elevated the prequels. But this one still maintains its second last place. This is Fantasia's like one of his favorite. I love this movie. When I think of Star Wars, I say it all the time. I think of that chase at the beginning of this one. The droid factory scene, though, I still can't forgive that scene. It's pretty. I just don't like that scene. Desi, what do you think of Attack of the Clones being number 10?
I mean, it's so romantic. They have such realistic dialogue in there. I personally can totally understand why Padme would fall in love with Anakin after seeing this movie. I don't understand why it's at number 10.
What if she also doesn't like sand? No one's ever taken that into account.
That's true. Maybe she doesn't like sand either.
She might not, Brock.
I mean, I feel like this one is a touchstone in Hayden Christensen's acting career, where it's just like maybe don't phone it in anymore. But I mean, it's also one of the most memeable of like the Star Wars outside of like Bananakin.
It's probably the one I quote the most.
Oh yeah, is that the meme with him and Padme this year? Yeah, it's this year. So I mean, that's got to tell you something about longevity. Like that's what, almost 20 years ago now. So
over 20. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. What do I like in that? I like Star Wars. It's great. I don't know if you knew this about me.
I know. I still love this movie anyway.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's a lot. I honestly really think it's fun. Heidi?
I mean, that was my number 10, to be honest with you. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the I don't hate the prequels, and I'm not gonna say the prequels ruin Star Wars for me. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Although I will say when the Ben Kenobi movie came out and everybody complained that Darth Vader didn't walk through that fire to get to Kenobi when he had on that suit, I pointed out, yeah, but remember the fire was in sand, so.
Good
point.
call.
Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought one could argue that the Reylo romance was rushed, but I think Daisy Ridley and oh my god, I'm blocking his name.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yeah. They had a lot of chemistry on screen. So maybe their relationship was rushed, but they had a lot of chemistry, and I just did not see the chemistry with Christensen and
Portman.
Sorry.
And also, they started the romance when she was supposed to be 15, and he was 8 or something like that.
Okay, that wasn't this movie. First of all, this movie is perfection, and I believe Solo was number 3 on my random list. And I think this was number 2 or 4. I gotta check, but I was okay with the thing. Well, honestly, I like all the movies, so that's the thing. It could have been any order, but Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars movie. So 9 and 8 were separated by 3 points. Brock and I did not help these out in any way whatsoever. So I'm going to start with Desi on this one. Here's the thing with I didn't make this up. This is 47 people. Here's the thing. It was number 1 on quite a few, but it was number 11 on more. And then it hit it sprinkled in the bottom. But it was
people who put The Last Jedi below The Rise of Skywalker. Did you see The Rise of Skywalker? I feel like I need to know.
You know what? I have to go back and look, and I will. But I think it was higher on more lists. But Rise of Skywalker was consistently where it was on every. And I think that was the problem. Is Last Jedi was lower on too many versus Rise of Skywalker being consistently on the mediocre. You'll see where it is, but on the mediocre side of things. So
I hope it's the very next one. Because if it's not, it's
what if it's number 2?
Who are you people who are ranking this movie so high?
So the people that were ranking this one are J.J. Abrams, Chris Terrio.
I think The Last Jedi is a masterpiece for the Rey and Kylo storylines. The other storylines, the Finn, Rose, Poe storylines, I kind of get. They don't really go anywhere. So for that, I understand people not liking it. The complaint that people have about Luke, how many of you are the same people that you were? Let's say, how old is he supposed to be? He's in his 60s or something in this movie. How many people are the same person in their 60s as they were when they were 19 years old?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's isolated.
And if you were to watch the prequels followed by the originals, and you see Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, and you're like, oh, they completely cut him out of the first movie. I can't believe that. And then they bring him in, and he's just some hermit living on a deserted planet all by himself. This is ridiculous. He's supposed to be the most powerful Jedi ever. Oh, I'm so angry. But no, nobody cares about that. It's fine when it's Yoda. It's not okay when it's Luke. Yoda also didn't want to train Luke.
Yeah, exactly.
Brock?
Last Jedi is a great movie. It's the reason why Rian Johnson should be given a trilogy and see what happens. I've said it a million times before. It's he was making calls. He was making hey, what if Star Wars became something different? And what if we went away from that formula, which ironically yesterday or last week or wherever we are, we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just made the same Star Wars and just gave it a little bit different, but follow a formula, but at the same note, it's you can do something different. It doesn't be we snuck onto a spaceship and we stole the plans. if you've seen Rebel Moon, he basically just does the exact same thing. But I don't know. Last Jedi, it had the potential to be something, and I think it would have been worthwhile to allow Rian Johnson to do something more. If that happens, who knows? I don't know.
Heidi?
I have it at number 5, which is my highest rank of the sequels.
Nice.
I know I said this 1,000 times, but I thought they had an opportunity to have a real meaty storyline, especially with the ending of Solo. I thought when I sat there and we're watching the whole Canto Bight thing, and DJ is going through looking at the manifesto and see that they've sold ships to both the rebellion and the First Order, I'm thinking, okay, this is taking a turn that I didn't see coming. The First Order aren't the bad guys. It's the people of Canto Bight. It's the people who are making money out. It's the people like Black Sun and Crimson Dawn. They're the real bad guys. They're manipulating everything all along, and that went nowhere.
Yeah.
That's for me.
But you were talking about Finn and Rose and Poe. If they had actually done that, then that would have made Last Jedi amazing. I'm like, okay, that's why we went here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was the whole point, was to take it in a completely different direction, and then it was just dropped for Rise of Skywalker.
And I think that's my biggest problem with the last. And it's not even the fault of The Last Jedi. It's just that it's the middle one, and when the middle one sets up the next one one's like, like I don't really know. It's kind of like, well, what's the point now? And that's kind of how a lot of the sequels kind of end up feeling when you're like, well, why did you do that if you're not gonna care about it? I think that the highs are really high in this, and the humor is very low in a lot of it. I think, like Finn was my favorite character in The Force Awakens, and I felt like he was mishandled in this movie, and his introduction in this movie was. I remember sitting in the theater like, come on, let's not go there. But I think like it's a beautiful looking movie, and I think what Desi said about like Rey and Kylo is some of the best stuff we've gotten in Star Wars. I think for me, Luke, I think the problem with Luke isn't what he is. I think it's that the movie before it built him up to be something that we're all expecting, and this one kind of turned and make it not. And the problem more than anything, I think, for the average viewer who just goes in, is that transformation of character happened off screen in between movies that we never got, that maybe those would have been compelling stories to see Luke turn into who he became, as opposed to just, he's miserable. I think that turns a lot of people off. I still think throwing of the lightsaber is awful though, but I don't like the Luke stuff doesn't. I remember afterwards I was kind of surprised that people were off put by Luke, because Brock called it a year before the movie came out, being like, what if Luke is miserable and crazy like Yoda? And like he said it like a year before. And if you don't believe me, search the videos, because it's on there. We haven't taken it.
Don't do it.
But he said it. No, don't do it. It'll take a long time. But he did say it, so it was always in the back. So because he said that, it was always in the back of my mind, so it didn't throw me off. But yeah, I think there's a lot. I always say it's the most underrated, overrated of all the movies, of Star Wars movies, because and that's not to say it can't be your personal favorite. I'm not saying that, but it's just like chill on the movie. Like it's good. It's fine. Like let's just like relax. Desi right now is like, let me go into a rant.
Well,
no, but it's allowed to be your personal favorite. I'm not saying it can't be someone's favorite, like anyone here. It's just like, I think just like, let's just relax on the movie, because it's been 7 years of people arguing about it.
I would say the Rise of Skywalker did Finn way dirtier than this movie did. At least Finn got to defeat Phasma in this one. In the next one, you learn all about how stormtroopers are really just kidnapped children, and here's some other stormtroopers who got away. And then, hey, let's go on a stormtrooper murder spree. Woohoo!
Yeah. That's a good point.
Well, Chance just wanted me to add that that if anyone's looked at Lucas's original script, he too was gonna have Luke, a miserable Jedi who had given up. But here's the thing: it wasn't until Mandalorian season 2 that they had the capability to make something of Luke fighting. So even though it was only 2 years prior, they didn't. It took a long time to get to that point. Even just 2 years prior to that, they couldn't do badass Luke. Now we can do badass Luke.
I never understood either when people were like, that's like Last Jedi's my Luke, that Mandalorian's like, I'm like, no, but they're the same character. It's just we haven't seen that middle part yet where he turns it like he's going to evolve into that. And I don't know. I think also, yeah, I don't want to get into it, but people just want to watch people fighting and like just, people don't like characters.
I don't want you to take over, but like when I saw Last Jedi, and I saw it at like the 3D IMAX, and this ship's coming forward, and the guy sitting next to me is going.
That opening battle is fantastic, though. And,
yes,
and
it has
Rose's
my favorite lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
The Praetorian Guard. Yeah.
Everyone knows I love Praetorian Guards.
Hardware Wars reference.
Yes, it did. It definitely did.
I was sitting there. I'm like, I see the ship flying, and I'm like, oh, that looks like the iron from Hardware Wars, and I realized it really wasn't iron. I'm like,
it was.
I know what that Easter egg is.
Ryan Johnson did that just for you. All right, let's go to arguably the best Star Wars movie to come out of the Disney era.
All right,
Rise of Skywalker. This was three.
I'm just glad
points.
It's not any higher than this.
It was three points ahead of us. I did the math twice. It was like an official electoral vote. I checked it twice because I was like, "Ooh, that's close." So I did it again, and it was 3 points ahead. And a lot of people, there was a lot of explanation as to why it was higher than The Last Jedi, and it was, just because they didn't like The Last Jedi. It was mostly the explanation. But this is number 8, and I think I don't disagree with what you said about Finn, because Finn became my favorite character in The Force Awakens, and this movie is also just him yelling Rey really loud a lot, and it's like, because I was kind of, when they got J.J. Abrams back, I was kind of excited to see him write for Finn again, because I thought he kind of understood Finn, and there was a lot, and also I know this is argued and people might hate me for this, but I did not need Finn to be Force sensitive. My favorite character in the original trilogy was Han Solo, who maybe now he's Force sensitive with all the retcon they do, but back when I was a kid, he was just a pilot with a gun. Like, that's what he did, and he made me laugh, and he was my favorite character growing up. And
nobody has needed Chewbacca to be Force sensitive.
No, and so I really didn't need that to happen, and then it happened, and I was a little let down. But I was just like, why? And then nothing comes of it. It's just like nothing comes of it. So it kind of, but I do enjoy. I think it's a fun movie. My dad watched it a couple of months ago, and he said that is a really bad movie.
Yeah.
Just so
I agree with your dad.
Well, you wouldn't if you heard what he said with The Last Jedi. Heidi, Heidi, what do you think of Rise of Skywalker being number 8?
I actually had it at 7. I had
this was
Heidi.
Your
I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
Well, I had it.
You're the reason that this is ranked here.
It was consistently like 7, 8, 9, like in those, like right there.
Again, I mean, I had it. I had it above Solo. It was my least favorite of the sequels. My problem is the same problem I had with the prequels. The story was just rushed. I think if they had stretched it out, it would have been better. Maybe it should. I think maybe they told the same story in 2 movies instead of just cramming it all into one. And again, why didn't it continue the story of what happened in Last Jedi? It just kind of like, I mean, just kind of like, just left, like I said, left us blank, and it's like you come up with a storyline of these people and how they're making money selling to both sides, and you could really go somewhere interesting with this where Star Wars has never gone before, and it's just all of a sudden it's like people complained about Force Awakens was too close to the source material, so then they did The Last Jedi, which was too far from the source material. People complained, so then people went back to getting too close to the source material again. I mean, it was basically Easter egg the movie. The whole thing with the tiger was ridiculous, but I didn't fun. And I liked the kiss at the end, even though he died. But
okay, so the kiss and Babu Frick are the best parts of this movie for me. Other than Babu Frick, I didn't feel the need to add any of these new characters. Did we need Dio? What does he really add? Did we need Jana? Apparently not, because Finn still goes off and murders a whole bunch of stormtroopers anyways. It didn't help him realize that stormtroopers were real people. Did we need Zori? I don't see what she really added to it. Let's focus on the characters.
With Babu Frick.
Babu Frick was necessary. But I didn't see the need to add in so many other new characters. Let's just focus on the characters that we have. Rose was completely sidelined. She's like, hey, I'm here at the beginning of the movie, and then we never see her again, basically. Yeah, let's dive in deeper on Finn, dive in deeper on Rose, dive in deeper on Poe, and forget about these just trying to introduce more people for the sake of selling action figures.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the sequel trilogy almost reminded me of the round robin, like when you were in school and someone would write a story and you have an idea and you pass the paperback, and by the time the story was finished,
so true.
Different. I think there were like too many cooks, and I think another problem was that Carrie Fisher died, and I think that was supposed to be Leia's movie. Like, Force Awakens was Han's movie. Last Jedi was Luke's movie, and this was supposed to be Leia's movie. So they were limited to what they could do with Leia. Like, I would like to see her interact if she had lived. Like, we've seen her interact with like Anakin's ghost. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope to eventually see that, even in Tales of the Jedi or whatever. But
so, The Rise of Skywalker is the dumbest name for this movie because every single Skywalker dies. And why, at the end of the movie, would Rey call herself a Skywalker when she and Luke didn't even like each other? They never got along. If anything, she should have called herself Rey Solo because she got along with Han and she was in love with Ben. Yep. Or call herself Rey Organa because Leia was the one who trained her, not Luke. Luke was there for like 5 minutes. They fought. They didn't get along. He got in the way when she was trying to, connect with Ben. So there's zero reason for her to call herself Rey Skywalker.
I completely disagree, and I have a really good argument against it. And that is, first of all, I have no problem with it actually, but I never thought that much about it. Whatever. The reason is, and this is I think legit, is that J.J. Abrams doesn't care, and Skywalker is who he cares about, and that's why he did it. That was it. It's like these movies are about Skywalker, so she's got to be called Skywalker. The end. And that's not a good reason. I'm totally joking, but I really believe that's the reason, is that they were like, oh, we'll end the Skywalker saga with her becoming a Skywalker. And it's
but
like,
she's a Palpatine.
Yeah.
Which is like, By the way, and I said this about, like, I think it was 4 years ago when we watched it. My nieces and nephew, who were younger at the time, they mind blown when they revealed that she was a Palpatine. Now, they could have done more with that information, but I think that is a fun twist, I guess. I think it is. It fits in Star Wars, and it played off well with kids, which I think matters. But yeah, adding the Skywalker at the end I never had a problem with it, but it is kind of redundant, and it's like you're just doing it because this is about the Skywalkers, and for some reason you can't move forward on it.
I had no problem with her being related to Palpatine. That was actually my theory from, after The Force Awakens, that she was going to be a Palpatine. But the fact that they kill off all of the Skywalkers and only have a Palpatine left, and then say that, but now she's going to be a Skywalker, so we're going to call this The Rise of Skywalker. Just none of that makes sense. Her being related to Palpatine, I have no problem with. Her calling herself a Skywalker makes zero sense to me.
I didn't like her going to Luke and saying I'm Palpatine. He's like, yeah, I already knew that. Whatever. Yeah, Leia and I knew that.
Then why did he keep asking who she was?
Yeah.
Do you know what I think the actual problem is because how you brought up the round robin thing is it? I think J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson are just such different filmmakers and storytellers. They're oil and water, and I don't think they gelled making 3 movies together. I think that's honestly, like, if you would have put 2 other filmmakers that maybe worked a little bit better together, and look, the Colin Trevorrow episode 9 that would have happened, I still believe would have been worse because I saw the Jurassic World movies. I saw those movies. I saw them all. I bought the last one and I watched it and I said, why?
The dinosaurs got out again.
No, it's not.
Oh,
It's giant
no.
grasshoppers. The last one was so bad. I think Erin walked away like 20 minutes into it. She's like, what are you watching? I was like, I don't know. I paid $10 for this and I can't get a refund. It's been too long. It was awful. So I think as bad as it was what, Heidi?
I'm sorry. I was saying the only thing better was the title.
Yes, I loved the title Duel of the Fates. That would have been a great title.
Yeah.
But no, anytime I would complain about The Rise of Skywalker, just remind me that we could have gotten that movie, and I'll be quiet.
But I don't know how you feel, Brock, but I just think those two filmmakers just they don't work. Like they just didn't.
They were not comparing notes, but you know what? It's
No.
just like it's not unheard of. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. Like everyone got excited that Sam Raimi was going to do Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and it was by far not one of the greatest post Endgame Marvel movies. And like now it's somewhat they're kind of coming back, but like it's a testament of like when you don't have a set vision, then who knows what's going to happen.
All right, speaking of set visions, Brock, I'm going to put this on the screen and I'm going to let you start with it.
Oh, number 7, Phantom Menace. Wow.
This one was a surprise. This one surprised me. And you know what it is? It's the young kids who are now adults who grew up with this movie are ranking it higher, but still hate Attack of the Clones.
Brock. I mean, we're like almost at midpoint and we've already got rid of most of the sequels. So that's saying something. Not surprising because when we first started doing this, it was like Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. Right?
And then Revenge of the Sith for a while, I think.
Revenge of the Sith. So it's not a shock. I'm trying to see I'm not going to tell you where I put it on my random list of randomness. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah. I mean, it's a movie that's like what they did in that, like technically, technology wise is like groundbreaking, but of course it was the first one, so it's just like look that great. But I know at the same note, I've already said it this episode, it gave us Bananakin, so I don't know.
I love this. Everyone knows I love this movie. I won't even speak to it. I absolutely love it. Desi, let's go over to you.
My kids love this movie. Darth Maul is their favorite character. I would say they probably like Darth Maul. Definitely my youngest likes Darth Maul more than he likes Darth Vader. He thinks Darth Maul is the coolest. They also love the pod racing. Also, they're kids, so maybe that's just they like seeing another kid, Anakin, which is probably why it blew their mind when I told them that Anakin and Darth Vader I love every Star Wars movie except for The Rise of Skywalker. So I love this movie as well, even though it's got Jar Jar Binks in it. Jar Jar doesn't bother me. I love it. I love this movie. I love all of the movies that are left on this list. So I've got nothing bad to say about anything other than, CG wasn't great back then.
Although CG Yoda was better than Papa Yoda when they made that change. Because I don't know if you remember Papa Yoda from the theater. Why does Yoda look like that? Heidi?
This was actually my number 11. It's probably my least favorite. Although the ending, the Duel of the Fates part, that was obviously amazing. That was probably my favorite part. The thing is, my problem is you go in, and if you haven't seen it before, you know who the villain is. It's Palpatine, and you could leave it for the new generation to figure that out, but they don't. They talk about there's another Sith out there, and then the camera just pans right onto Palpatine. It's like, why are you doing that? You're blowing it for the new people who have never seen this. You were telling them, hey, everybody, here's the villain. I mean, when Lucas did that, he went in with the expectation, well, everybody knows who the real villain is because they've seen the original trilogy. But now he wants people to start with one. But because now you're starting with one, if you're watching it the first time, then maybe it's going to go over a 6-year-old's head. But if a 21
I
sees
can
it the first
confirm.
time, it's gonna blow it.
It goes over a 5-year-old. 5-year-old dad. He didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I'm saying, I mean, it's obvious who the main villain is. They said, okay, here's the main villain. Okay. And that's also, that took away, and like I said, I knew who the villain was, but like Rise of Skywalker, that opening, I know, not Rise of Skywalker, I'm getting over my head, but Revenge of the Sith, I mean, that opening scene, everyone says exciting. It's not exciting to me because I know it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, here we go. Number 6. Anyone have any idea what 6 is?
No.
It's a Star Wars movie.
Rogue One.
The Force
Rogue One.
Awakens.
The Force
Yeah.
Awakens. Heidi, any guess before I click on it?
I'm gonna say The Force Awakens. I mean, that's what I have for my 6.
Oh,
We basically just took Heidi's list. The Force Awakens. This, before I did the random list, this one was low on my list, but it's number 6. I think that's fair. I think this movie's a lot of fun. I call it a donut. It's a lot of fun. It's tasty, it's delicious, but at the end of the day, it's pretty empty calories. But you know what? Watch the lead up to this in the theater and watching it in the theater. No experience has really matched that since. So that's where I'm going to go with this. Heidi, Force Awakens, number 6.
I mean, it got me excited for Star Wars again. Like I said, it's not that I hated the prequels. They weren't exciting for me like the original trilogy was. This actually reinvigorated Star Wars for me again. Like I said, I didn't hate the prequels. I just didn't like how the story was told. I thought it was rushed. But yeah, I was excited when I went to see Force Awakens, and I saw it opening night, and there were 10 trailers. And by trailer 9, they showed an Avengers trailer, and somebody screamed from the audience, "What about Star Wars?" I don't know, because all these people dressed up as Darth Vader about ready to rush the screen.
You should clarify the Avengers trailer, though. You're not talking about Iron Man Avengers. You're talking about Uma Thurman and Ray Fiennes Avengers.
I don't know, whatever Avenger movie would come out.
That's what we have to clarify that that's what you're talking about. And
yeah.
It might have even been the first Avengers movie. I don't.
Yeah, it might have been.
It was Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman. I'm telling you.
People were upset because we got to the Avengers and people were getting mad. Like I thought a riot was gonna break out. And finally, it started.
Now it's reversed. Now people watch the Avengers and hate the Star Wars trailer. Oh wait, we don't get movies anymore. Does he? Any thoughts on Force Awakens?
I am so glad that The Force Awakens is not higher on this list than A New Hope, like it was the first time I was on this ranking show with you. I was like, what is wrong with all of you people? I enjoy The Force Awakens. It brought Reylo to me. If you watch it and you were like, oh, I can't believe it, this whole romance thing was so rushed. No, go back and watch it. See how they are in his interrogation room. That you can't tell me that there wasn't some tension there. Yeah, I enjoy it. It is pretty much a clone of A New Hope. So like I said, I'm just glad it's not higher on this list than A New Hope, because I thought that anybody who would rank this higher than A New Hope is insane. But it's still good. I enjoy it.
And rushed romance can work if the actors have chemistry. I'm not saying it was rushed, but I'm saying, again, I just thought Hayden Christensen and
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman, they did not have the chemistry, even though I think the reason they hired Hayden Christensen was because Lucas thought they had chemistry, but it didn't translate for me on screen. JJ
did leave too many open questions. Ooh, yes. So many mysteries. That it was too much that could never be all paid out.
No, and like it does, and not everything needs to be a mystery either.
Yeah,
Brock.
Yeah, like this. It's funny. Phantom Menace and Force Awakens. Like I'm of an age that I remember going to these. Like I didn't go to any of the original Star Wars in theaters. Obviously, I saw them in the re-release, which was exciting, but not the same. Like Force Awakens, seeing that, I'm like, oh wow. Like at the time, I'm probably 12, 13, old enough that I could get dropped off with my friends at the theater to go see this and then have time to go to the nearby toy store and buy all so I had disposable income, or at least I know one of my friends bought all the action figures for Force Awakens because he was like a completist. So it's like, I remember that. And I remember Force Awakens because one, we weren't doing the podcast yet. But like James was like the first person I really met that liked Star Wars at the same level as me. So it's like we went crazy. Like we saw this movie 7 times, 8 times? I don't know.
You saw it more than I did.
Yeah, I've never seen a movie more than maybe twice in the theater. Like this movie, regardless of like where it stacks up, it's like you can't sort of recreate that anymore. I mean, I guess you can, like an end game, not to bring it back to Marvel, like that movie, it's like, whoa, you remember when those moments, but like those movie moments, especially now where like a lot of people just don't go to the theater, it's like you don't get those experiences. So like the fact that like I saw this movie 7 times, it's great. And it's just like I said earlier, it's like you could create a formula for Star Wars and just give me the same movie. I'll probably watch it over and over again. Like, so it's a win. And it was like, wow. And if with this movie hadn't been, I mean, Disney bought Lucasfilm, they were gonna make a movie, but like this movie, it comes into existence, and then we enter a new era of Star Wars, which like I mean, I talk about it on a weekly basis, but it's just like all the things we have Disney Plus, you don't have it until Disney buys all this stuff. So we got to be thankful. So it's exactly where it needs to be. My guess is New Hope is next because it's always sort of dead center in these lists because it's like you gotta you gotta respect the source material. Obviously, it's not a fact of A New Hope is a perfect movie. It is. It's on the AMC 100 for a reason, but like it's not a matter of what's bad about it or good about it. It's just like, well, I really like Return of the Jedi. Yeah. I really like Revenge of the Sith. Anyways, so yeah, A New Hope. I mean, yeah, of course, middle. It's yeah.
It is I will say this. Yeah, it's the reason we're all here, and I think it's the best start to finish of all the Star Wars movies. It's the only one that doesn't rely on any other movie to exist. It's the only one. Every other movie, even the Phantom Menace, which is, I guess, number 1, it needs A New Hope. It needs what you've learned in that movie. And everything it does in it, I think it does brilliantly with Alec Guinness and stuff, is it gives you all the background information you need in little tiny bits of dialogue, and you're not bored with those dialogues. And it does something that I loved about Star Wars, and I did it in the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm one of 7 people that loved it, and that is when people just walk around in a desert for 20 minutes with no talking, and they just do things, and you're like, oh, look, that looks really hot and sandy. And that is what I like about Star Wars, and they did it here, and the Book of Boba Fett did it, and that's, anyway, I think it's front to back, it's the best. It is the best Star Wars movie. It's the only one that does not rely on anything else. Heidi.
Well, I had that number 2, but I think it should be higher, but whatever. Anyway, A New Hope, when it came out in 1977, except for Planet of the Apes, they really didn't do sequels back then. That could have been one movie and done, and people would have been satisfied if they never came out with Empire Strikes Back. So I'm actually shocked it's so low. But I mean, how can you not rank it high? I mean, I don't have it as number 1. I have it as number 2, but I'm just shocked that it's down so low.
It's the younger generation doesn't I don't want to say appreciate. They don't like it as much, is what I can tell you from the list.
If they saw the original as opposed to the special editions. At this point, I'm expecting, like you said, no talking in the desert. I wouldn't be shocked if one day we get like Anthony Daniels walking around the desert saying, "I don't like sand. It's rough."
My master never liked sand. Now I don't like sand. Does he?
I like how there's little things that they just threw into this movie. Had no idea or plan of it going anywhere or meaning anything. And then those little tidbits have become huge.
Yeah.
You fought in the Clone Wars? What the heck are the Clone Wars? No, we're not going to talk about the rest of this movie, but we're going to have a prequel trilogy. We're going to have a spin-off cartoon animated series from that, and then we're going to have a spin-off live action from that spin-off animated series. Like all of this from just like little tidbits. Oh, your father was seduced by, not your father, Anakin died because of Darth Vader, who was seduced by the dark side. And then that turns into a whole thing. Like these little bits that they never talk about. It's just mentioned very briefly, very quickly. They don't talk about it again. And it has just like blossomed into everything that we see today. And it's incredible that all of this has come from this one movie, and just little random mentions have gone huge.
Well, like, I guess George Lucas originally went. Ironic thing about all this, George Lucas apparently originally went to Disney to do it, and they was like, "We don't do PG movies. That's too big, and we don't do PG movies. We only do G movies." And they kicked themselves, and then they did The Black Hole, which completely bombed. So, and ever since then, they wanted to get their hands on Star Wars, and it took them years before they finally did it. And it's not like Star Wars hasn't been included. I mean, it's been at the Disney parks for years. It's been Disney parks since the 80s. I mean, in Epcot. And also, even before they bought Star Wars, there's a scene at the end of Up where they're showing what happened after the movie, and it shows the old man character taking the Boy Scout trip to see Star Wars in theaters. So, I mean, ever since Disney turned it down, they've been kicking themselves and been trying to get it ever since. So when it came up, they finally got it. And that's the one thing I'm grateful for Disney, because 2005, we thought we're never going to get Star Wars again. And then, like, I found out, like, 7 years later, oh, Star Wars is coming back. So, I mean, it changed science fiction, because the year before, the big science fiction movie was Logan's Run. And it's a good movie, but if you see the effects, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, there's this car moving through this tube, and it's just a ball bearing just going through that tube.
It's so
One
true.
thing I did see this week, though, that I thought was funny was when Leia says, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Mark Hamill, Tamara Morrison, and John Boyega are all exactly the same height, 5'9" inches.
So the answer is no. He just goes.
He's not short for a stormtrooper.
He's perfect. All right, number 4. Oh, Heidi, what was that?
I was just gonna say something I thought about, how Luke doesn't say his name is Luke Skywalker. She brought up when she meets Luke Skywalker the first time. He doesn't say his name's Luke Skywalker till he meets her. So after watching the TV shows and the prequels and the sequels and the other original movies, I'm just wondering, because people would say, well, that was stupid that his name's Luke Skywalker and they're trying to hide him from Anakin Skywalker. I'm wondering if his name was Luke Lars up to that point. When he found out who his father really is, he told her he was Luke Skywalker because of the legend of Luke Skywalker. I'm wondering if up to that point his name was actually Luke Lars, because we don't hear the name Skywalker until he says, "My name is Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you."
I blame KK.
It's okay. She's fired.
She's fired. That's a good point. Number 4.
Oh man. Yeah. Wow.
Also known as Rouge One.
It's like, and now it's like we've come to the point where we're like, we know what's still left. So like, wow, how exciting. But like, these are like the next 3, regardless of order, make sense of where they're going. Rogue One, fantastic film. I think maybe the best of the sequels, just because it was trying something slightly different, but still fit.
Isn't it a prequel?
Or sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, Disney era. That is a good question. We have been talking lies for years because we always put the sequels.
It's a sequel and prequel. It's a sequel and a prequel. It's a sequel to Revenge of the Sith, but it's a prequel to A New Hope. It's like
a twinkle. It's an in between.
Crawl.
Good call.
Yeah, it's an opening crawl to a movie.
Yeah, it is. Fantastic.
Heidi?
Again, a little tiny throwaway thing that has blossomed into something huge. Go ahead, Heidi. Go ahead.
I actually have it at 3. That's
Mm.
my favorite of the Disney Star Wars. I went into that movie knowing exactly how it was going to end. Even though I wasn't spoiled, I knew it was going to end with them getting the plans to Leia right at the last minute. I didn't realize how close it was. I when you watch A New Hope now, when Leia says, "I'm on a diplomatic mission," and he said, "No, you're a traitor and you're part of the Rebel Alliance." I'm waiting for him to say, "Girl, I just saw you leaving 5 minutes ago. What are you talking about?"
It's true. It's true.
That's the only thing. But the last, I mean, the last the last third of that movie is what makes it number 3 on my list of all of them. It's just amazing, that action scene and the just everything, the artwork, the filmography, everything. It's just amazing. You feel engrossed in that world. And again, I saw it on IMAX, and you just feel like you're completely enveloped in that world. My problem with the sequels was the CGI was just way over the top and probably not up to par at the time. I think Lucas thought it was up to par, and now you look back on it and it doesn't look as good to me. But I mean, Rogue One, I mean, like I said, just the last third of that movie is what made it amazing. Like if the whole movie had been like that 1/3, that might have been my favorite Star Wars so far. But yeah, that's easily my top 3, and it might be why Andor's so good.
Yeah. Desi?
Andor is my favorite of the Disney series, actually.
Yeah.
I was not like a huge Rogue One stan, but I didn't hate it either. I was just kind of like, oh, that's all right. I found the first part of it boring, but I loved the second part of it. Like Heidi said, the last third of the movie is great. I thought the first part of the movie was just for me. I think for me, Rogue One has gotten higher on my list just because of Andor, because Andor is such a good show. And it's kind of like, you appreciate Attack of the Clones more after you watch Clone Wars, or you appreciate Revenge of the Sith more. It's like the extra material is making the movies better. So I think that's very interesting. And also, I really enjoyed teaming up with Cassian when I did The Void at Disney Springs. I'm very sad that is also closed. They've closed all of the immersive, wonderful interactive experiences.
You're not invited back on anymore. Brag, like just like, oh, and I teamed up with Cassian and no,
and K2SO, yeah.
No. I love Rogue One. I did an original review. Actually, Brock, do you remember we did a video on the YouTube channel before it was us like getting ready to go see Rogue One. Then there was a big snowstorm. And then we saw it, and the beginning for me, I always thought was a little choppy. The more I watch it, the less choppy it is. It didn't have a good flow to it, but I love Rogue One. I think it's fun. I think it fits in. I think Andor does do a great job to expand on Rogue One, and I like that everybody dies, and I like that the Vader scene at the very end is phenomenal. And I don't know. Let's go a quick round table around. Brock, we'll start with you, then Desi, then Heidi. Vader hallway scene, Luke hallway scene, Brock.
Oh, how dare you!
On the spot.
Action wise, Vader. Yeah, no, I have to go Vader. I mean, the Luke scene. I'm assuming Mandalorian season 2, right? Yeah. I mean, it's good, but it's just like I never thought we would do this. Like Vader at this point in the movie, we know he's there. And that wasn't a surprise, but like that they did that, you're like, wow. Like I think I said this when we first watched. It's like this is what George Lucas dreamed of. But the Luke scene, it's like, wow, I can't believe they did it because we never thought they would bring Luke back, and it worked, and it was just. But yeah, I gotta go Vader. If you gotta choose one, like just the visuals of that is amazing.
Desi?
Okay, you put me on the spot, and just gut instinct, I'm going to say the Luke scene only because I feel like that was more surprising and shocking to me.
Yeah. Fair.
Darth Vader, awesome. You know, you always want to see him be that real bad guy, because when you watch him in A New Hope, it's kind of like his fight with Obi-Wan is a little lackluster. But when you see him there, you're like, whoa, that's amazing. But with Luke, it's like, I had no idea that was coming. I didn't realize that siege, because in Rogue One, you see Leia at the end of that, and you're like, it looks a little rough. Not great. You see Luke at the end of this, and you're like, whoa, that's amazing. Yeah, I got to go with Luke, only because it was so shocking. And when he comes in and Cara Dune's like, oh, a single X-Wing, great, we're saved.
Oh.
And then you're like, wait, but who's in the X-Wing?
Yeah.
Goku.
And then he gets out, and you're like, oh my god, he's got one glove on his hand.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a green lightsaber. Oh my god, it's Luke. That's
Brock,
why
you can't
I
go
think
back
I'm
on
going to
this.
give it to Luke.
No,
Brock texts me, goes, wait till the end.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Heidi?
Oh, that's a rough one. Wow. I don't know. I listened to Brock. I was about to say Vader, but I listened to Dudley and about to say Luke. I don't know. I mean, one would be a close first and a close second. I mean, you could watch that Vader scene, just begin at the Vader scene, and then go right into A New Hope and make A New Hope like 20 times better. But and then the way he just slices through people and everything. And I guess originally, Jen Ursa was actually going to. That's why they did a lot of reshoots and stuff, and Jen Ursa was originally going to escape and get aboard Leia's ship, and she was the one who was going to hand him off, and then Vader was going to run her through, but I guess they thought even that was going to be too evil for Vader to run this woman through. But either way, I mean, it's just amazing. But I remember, again, with the Vader scene, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm sorry, the Luke scene in Mandalorian 3, and I'm sitting there watching, and I'm just entranced. I'm like, okay, so Trapper Wolf and what's the Asian character? I'm blocked. See, I block names. What's the Asian character's name from Canada? Has his own suit.
Carson Teva.
Carson.
Yeah.
They're gonna come in, and then Grogu's gonna grab the darksaber and just slice through all these guards. And I thought that was it, and I'm like, even though I'm like, oh, this is what's gonna happen, I was looking forward to it. I wasn't gonna be disappointed when I saw it. So I see the actually, I'm like, okay, well, this is either Carson Teva or Trapper Wolf, and he's gonna distract him and give enough time for Grogu to do his thing. But then I see Grogu's ears go up, and I'm, to quote A Christmas Story, I screamed fudge at the top of my head.
Except I didn't say fudge.
When I realized and I started crying because I realized what was going on, and I was just screaming and crying at that point. It was like 3 a.m. because and I remember, like, I have a friend who's a coworker. He's also a Star Wars fan, and I would go in every morning, and I would tell him, oh my god, this episode was better than last week's episode, and like I remember we saw the Jedi, and I said, oh my god, it's amazing. And then I went in for episode 6. I'm like, believe it or not, it's more intense than the one where he comes in Ahsoka. I didn't tell him what was happening. So then I walked in that morning, and I just walked out, and I said, I'm not saying a word, and then I just went to work. So he knew it was something special, because there was nothing I could say to him that wasn't going to give it away. So I just walked up to him, and I said, I'm not saying a word.
You never picked one, though.
I don't know. I guess Luke. I don't know.
Nice.
So I'm gonna go Vader, but the Luke one though, I was thinking about when I made you all go before me. Luke is rescuing Baby Yoda, and that's kind of like, ooh, like I need Baby Yoda in my life, and if Luke doesn't rescue him, then my life is lacking. But I'm gonna go Vader because Vader, I love Vader. Vader's one of my favorite characters, and I love that scene. And like Heidi said, it makes the opening of A New Hope is already a spectacular opening, and this just adds to that opening when you see what just happened, and then him boarding the ship. But I think we've all agreed that they're both great scenes. And here we go. Top 3 time coming up. Number 3. This one was neck and neck with number 2. Number 2 had a lot. This one, it's a little bit. I think it's only 3 because Andrew Fantasia hates it so much. If he didn't hate it so much, it probably would have been more. But this is, look, Revenge of the Sith. I like Revenge of the Sith. I think it's a great movie. This is one, though, that you see the people who grew up with the prequels. This is their Star Wars movie. Like, that's really the vibe that I get every time I talk to those people. Is like, this is their Star Wars. So I have no issue with it being here. Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting, a whole bunch of stuff happening in the middle of this movie, and the opening scene. When I saw it in the theater, the sound was gargled, so I got a free movie ticket. So I'll always be grateful for that. Brock, Revenge of the Sith, number 3.
I'll be grateful for that.
Give me something free. I'm in.
Arguably, probably the best of the prequels, just because it's just sort of like, all right, we've been waiting 2 movies for this to just finally know how exactly it all plays out. It's trying to remember. Did the Clone Wars cartoon come out after? After, yeah. I don't know. It's great, and it's like there's so many cool characters even in a movie where you're like, we don't need to make it more, but then General Grievous gets dropped in. You're like, ooh, very cool, very cool. It deserves to be higher up, so it's very exciting that it's this high up. Has it ever been this high up, James?
I think it was 3 last year as well.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Then I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
It was 3 or 4 because Rogue One. I think Rogue One and Sith go back and forth. They have been lately, because nobody likes A New Hope.
I do, but not enough to rank it higher than what I have.
Heidi?
Well, I have it 3 from the bottom. It's my favorite of the prequel trilogy. Again, I kind of went in. I didn't find the opening scene all exciting because all it was a mess. To me, it was just a mess of CGI, and I was like, we're going to rescue this person, and it's a trap. It's all for nothing.
Do it.
I mean, yeah, the lightsaber duel at the end is exciting. I have a problem with him choking out Padme. I know that's a trope for someone to turn to evil to protect the one they love, and they end up being the one who ends up destroying them. But it just seemed out of left field. I would have been happier if he had accidentally did it instead of actually trying to choke her out, because then he asked where she is. I was like, well, stupid, you're the one who choked her out. I don't know. My whole problem basically with the sequel trilogy is it seems rushed. My thing about the original trilogy, you had George Lucas with people reining him in, and I think that's why it's amazing. When you got to the sequel trilogy, you didn't have George Lucas anymore, and you just had different opinions. So it was kind of like a chopped up round robin. The thing with the prequel trilogy, George Lucas had just discovered CGI and said, hey, I can do the stuff that I always wanted to do. And it's not that the CGI didn't look amazing, but it doesn't look as real as it does now. And that time he was surrounded all by yes men who agreed to everything he wanted. And I don't know, I just think that the storyline was just crammed together because he had too much stuff. It was all his ideas, but it was too much stuff he was throwing in 2-3 movies. The problem with sequels is you had 3 different visions, each thrown into one movie, that really weren't blending together greatly. So it's my favorite of the prequel movies, but I had it down on the list. I had it for 9.
So it was you and Fantasia that caused this to not be above number 2. Desi?
It's also my favorite of the prequels. Watched it with my kids last week, and not only were they shocked to find out that Anakin turned into Darth Vader, they were also very concerned. Why is Anakin fighting Obi-Wan? I thought they were friends. So that that was a little sad to try
they
to
hate Star
explain
Wars.
it to them. Oh, I thought they were friends.
So they're
Oh,
watching. They saw the prequels before the originals,
they've watched them all, but
but they
you
don't.
know,
They don't remember.
my oldest one just turned 5. My
Mm.
youngest one will
they're
be
not.
4 in a couple weeks. So, you know, even though they've watched them all, it's kind of like they're picking up on things more.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's a fascinating way to watch it. Just because, you know, we all grew up original, prequel, sequel, but seeing it from that perspective has got to be kind of fun.
Yeah. So it was really sad to see them be like, why are Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting? I think that the younglings thing went over their head. Hopefully,
That's okay.
I don't think that they just because all they see is him in the room with the younglings. You don't see anything actually happening there. So
they're safe. It's fine.
They're good.
everything's
He just
fine.
went there to teach them.
He's
taught them.
He's protecting them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think of the prequels, it's definitely the best one. The prequels, in my opinion, the most quotable. I could quote this entire movie probably. It's, you know, there's just some fun scenes in there, but then there are issues. I did feel like Anakin's fall was a little quick.
Yeah.
They should have, I don't know, the way that it was introduced in A New Hope when it was Anakin was seduced by the dark side. I didn't really ever feel like he was seduced. It was kind of like, no, I need him to help me save Padme. All right, I'll do whatever you want now, my master, after he, you know, stops Mace Windu. And then, okay, now all of a sudden he's a Sith and he's going to go kill a whole bunch of kids. I felt like that was a little quick. A little quick for me, especially just watching it with my kids and them being like, oh, I don't get it. Why is Anakin bad now? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, good point. I kind of thought it would have been cool if Anakin was a character and then you heard like the Jedi rumblings about like a Jedi killer named like Darth Vader, like someone named Darth Vader's out there coming after them and no one knew who it was until this movie. Are you guys ready for number 2? Brock, what do you think?
I want it to be Empire, but I don't think Jedi's been a number 1. It's fine. It's fine. Return of the Jedi in 1 or 2. I'll accept it.
You know what? I'm going to change the order. This is number 1. This is my favorite. It has Wicket, and Wicket's in Rise of Skywalker, which is why Rise of Skywalker is my number 2 movie.
That is a good point.
If Wicket is in something, it becomes the best. I saw Ewoks on Ice, and I will remember that, and I will bring that up every other week on this podcast to make everyone know that I saw it. And I made my aunt buy me all these glow-in-the-dark things, like those lights with like the brush lights. I mean, I had all that. I had a Wicket flag, and we got my sister a Princess Nisa flag. It was the greatest day of my life. So Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars movie. I had the Ewok Village also. Heidi, why should this be number 1?
It shouldn't. I had it number 4.
Oh,
I know.
I love it, and don't get me wrong. Just because something's at number even 12 doesn't mean I don't love it. I like all the movies on this list. You know, it makes it. The only thing I don't like about rankings, it makes it sound like you're gonna hate the movie that's at 11, and I don't. I like it, but no, this is a movie that I went to see. It took me 2 weeks to see it, and by the time I got to see it, I went in with 2 friends, and we didn't think we were gonna get in. And the guy, we said we want 3 for Return of the Jedi, and the guy said, "Okay, but you can't sit together." I'm like, "That's fine." This movie, and as soon as I got my ticket, the guy behind me said 2 for Return of the Jedi, and the guy said, "Sorry, just sold out."
wow!
They're awesome.
Oh my goodness.
The good old days when you had to go to the theater to buy tickets.
I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I had fun. It was a great movie. I think it was fun trying to find out Leia was Luke's sister, except for the previous movie when they made out.
Somehow she always knew.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I heard people joke about, well, there's still the possibility that Rey and Ben are cousins. It's like, well, does that really stop anyone before?
I still think they're brother and sister, frankly. So
How dare you?
Desi, Return of the Jedi being number two.
Okay. Other than The Phantom Menace, this is my kids' other favorite movie because they are obsessed with Ewoks.
Right on.
They think that Ewoks are the greatest, and I mean, I can't argue with them. Ewoks and Porgs are probably the cutest. Well, and Anzellans now because I got to add Anzellans in there.
What about Babu Frick?
Yeah, bad baby. Yeah, so cute. And I love this movie. I can't think of anything bad to say about it because it's just so good. It's so classic. I love Han with his little shrug movement. Yeah, this movie is great, and we get to see Anakin come back to the light. I keep saying this, but I really, really want Hayden Christensen when he's old enough, give it a couple years. I want when Luke takes off that helmet, it to be an older Hayden Christensen under the helmet, so that when he shows up at the end, Luke's not like, who's this ghost?
Who did?
When I was a kid though, before they put Anakin in there, I had no idea who that was. I was a little kid though. I was like 4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
I had to ask my dad, who is that? And he's like, that's Anakin, dude. He didn't call me dude. My dad has never called me dude. We need to get this straight. My dad has never called me dude.
I don't know the name of the actor who is under the Vader helmet at the end of the movie. Okay.
I can't remember Natalie Portman, but I can remember Sebastian.
Okay, so let's say they had Sebastian there, and then they had Sebastian as the Force Ghost. He didn't look anything like the Anakin under the helmet. So yeah, just like James, I didn't know who he was and had to have my parents tell me who that guy was. But I would assume at least Luke would figure out that was his dad. But if Luke's seeing like, here's some 20-year-old kid with long hair staying next to Obi-Wan and Yoda, who's that guy?
Who did?
So yeah, please put Hayden Christensen under the mask.
I'm gonna get that. Brock, did you talk about this? Anything else you want to say about Return of the Jedi?
This is my favorite Star Wars movies. If you've listened to our podcast at all, this is my number one at always. And like, I don't even know if it's truly the best Star Wars movie anymore. It's just my favorite Star Wars movie. So yeah, Ewoks. We get Mon Mothma for the first time. This is the first time we see Emperor, like Ian McDiarmid, Emperor, and it's like launches him as a character for the rest of all Star Wars movies. Admiral Akbar, and just like the Endor of it, Jabba, yeah. Oh my god, it's Slave Leia, like it's just like so many pivotal parts of what is Star Wars now. I mean, they drop a Mon Cala character in every Star Wars show based on the fact that look at this guy, he's like a lobster, and then 20 years later, everyone's going to be like, it's a trap. Like, just like, that is the beauty of Star Wars, like these like pop culture references, and it's just, I love this movie. And it's like, I almost tried to make it my, like, let's watch this every Christmas Eve. And then people are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, that happened once. And I was like, yeah, but yeah, no, this is always my number one.
Yeah,
I do wish that they would have aged Mon Mothma up a little bit more in Ahsoka, because it looks like here she is young, and then here she is in Return of the Jedi, and then all of a sudden she's young again.
Yeah,
maybe they're different Mon Mothmas. Maybe it's like
or maybe after she got all of her money back after the war was over, then she went and got some space Botox. I don't know.
There you go. That's what happened. Canon. Make it. You went on the Star Cruiser hotel. That you should have said that as your story. Then that would have been canon. And number one, no surprise, it is probably arguably the best of all the movies. It's not my favorite of all the movies because it doesn't have Wicket, but it's really good though. Like, I think we can all agree that this one is it's just a very solid movie. And the fact that it's a sequel, like it never tries to be the first one. It's kind of its own thing, a continuation, but self-contained. It leaves on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it is just solid from start to finish. We got Lando. Every character that they add in this movie adds to the movie, unlike Desi's favorite Rise of Skywalker, where they just add characters to add them. This one, they add characters and they all play a part. Lobot plays a part. They all play a part in what's going on in the movie. And that's what's so that's part of what makes this a great movie. There's a lot more to it, obviously. I think the dark ending, Luke's hand, Han Solo, it's going on. It's so good. Ugnaughts, Desi, Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, I love Lando. Cloud City, what a great concept. And beautiful for that time. Seeing Han Solo go into carbonite and Leia saying I love you and him saying I know, that is so classic. And of course, the whole I am your father thing. I mean, I might have said to my son Luke when he was born, the first thing I might have said might have been I am your mother.
Which is probably also the one part that has ruined Star Wars since, because we're always like, what's the twist gonna be? There doesn't need to be a twist. Chill.
Yeah.
Heidi, Empire Strikes Back, which was, I think, your number 11.
That was my number 1.
Oh, yo.
I mean, that might not arguably be the greatest sequel to Star Wars in history. That might actually be the greatest movie sequel in history. And I mean that whole Vader, I am your father thing. I mean that was amazing. Unfortunately, it took me a while to get in to see that, so I'd already heard at school that he was. Although the book came out a couple months earlier and spoiled it. So if you read the book, then you already knew. But yeah, I just thought that was maybe one of the greatest movies of all time. And like you said, it wasn't afraid to go dark. And I'm not sure even today a movie would be willing to go that dark. And when I realize slaughtering kids is dark, but I'm talking about it didn't have the happy ending.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like the last one had this amazing happy ending. It had a better lightsaber duel. Like as much as I love Star Wars, the lightsaber duel is the least interesting thing in A New Hope.
Yep.
Yes.
Every other movie, it's probably most exciting, but that was when we had the standard for the lightsaber battle. And like I said, I mean, like that might be one of the greatest movies of all time, and like definitely one of the greatest sequels of all time. I can't think of a lot of movies where the sequel is better than the original, at least not offhand. I'm maybe
there's not a ton,
but I love the love story between Han and Leia. It kind of came out of left field. Everyone thought she was gonna hook up with Luke, and just all of a sudden,
and thank God she didn't.
Yeah. By the way, a sequel that is better than the first was Cheaper by the Dozen 2 with Eugene Levy and the family going to camp. Empire Strikes Back is great. Brock, did you talk on this one? Do you even
no.
like this movie? It doesn't have
terrible.
Wicket.
It doesn't.
Probably one of
it's
the worst movies.
Not Wicked. I mean, it has a penis monster that comes out of a meteorite, so that's kind of cool. A blatant, like stealing from Dune right there. That's the sandworm, but just is it a meteor? But I mean,
I've never thought that before. Now I can see it.
Your kids will never watch Empire Strikes Back.
My plan is complete.
Only watch Return of the Jedi.
I think of Flash Gordon. I think there was one in there was a penis.
Oh, absolutely.
Gordon.
Oh, absolutely. Did you say Flesh Gordon or Flash Gordon?
Flash Gordon.
Because there's yeah.
No, that was a different movie.
But it also introduces us to Boba Fett, like the most interesting character that says and almost does nothing, but like just the trajectory of that character, and of course Lando Calrissian. Like it's just like the characters in there are solid, and I don't know what else to say. It's awesome. So
the smoothest man in the galaxy.
Smoothest man in the galaxy.
And
Yes.
number
I
0
hopefully
on
get
the
his-
list.
The holiday special.
The
I was
holiday
like,
special.
He's got something else up his sleeve.
The holiday
probably.
special bookends our rankings. So those are our rankings. Those are all 11 live action theatrical releases that had to play in LA or New York for 1 week.
1 week.
That's what they were. How do you guys feel about our 8th edition of the Star Wars ranking? Desi, I know you're very happy with where everything laid out. So I
No.
think what do you think that we'll get changes in the next, like without a new movie coming out? Do you think there'll be much changes next year?
I hope. I feel like last year, The Last Jedi was higher than The Rise of Skywalker. I could be wrong. I feel like The Last
Very
Jedi
might
was
go.
definitely higher than I anticipated last year. So I thought maybe it would be higher again, and it wasn't. So
There were some people
maybe I
last year
just
who
my
had Last
hopes up.
Jedi high who didn't participate this year. So that could be.
Oh, you gotta go find them.
Yeah.
No, I purposely left them out. I said no. I'm just kidding.
Dare you?
I know I didn't leave anybody out. I asked all the usuals and I add to it every year, and it is what it is. I don't make that. This is the definitive list though. Like Lucasfilm puts this on their Star Wars website. This is the list of ranking. Variety uses this as well, and Forbes.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Heidi, any thoughts on the rankings?
I mean, I knew that I was going. A couple of them I was spot on, but I knew I was going to disagree with a lot of them because I'm one of the people who prefer the sequels over the prequels. But some things I was spot on, and other things I was way off. But I agree with the Last Jedi should be a lot higher.
I do think as time goes on, we'll see with the prequels. I think we'll see those sequels start to rise on the Rise of Skywalker on the list.
Well,
I
I'm
think
hoping the Mandoverse does for the sequels what
yes.
Clone Wars and Rebels did for the prequels.
It makes me wonder how that Mando movie is going to end, because theoretically, shouldn't Thrawn win, and then that's what creates the First Order? So you said that they wouldn't go dark again. I feel like they might.
I hope they do. I'm all in on the dark. I heard that Ahsoka ended dark, and I was like, did it? Did it?
It
just
end?
stopped. Just stop. I was like, where's the rest of it? Is this the HBO 2 halves of a season, or Netflix does it now? Netflix does it the worst though. They're like, here's your season, and the next 2 episodes are in 3 months.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Just give me them. Anyway, Brock, last thoughts on ranking Star Wars 2024.
Should I read my random
Yes.
list? Oh my god. Okay, so I'll explain this again. I did a dice app that had 2 dice. And just, I did chronological order of like when they occur. So Phantom Menace is 1 and Rise is 11. But the problem where it falls apart is I can't get 1 on. So Phantom Menace automatically becomes number 1. So I inversed it. So number 11 is Phantom Menace because something had to be there. Then Rise of Skywalker. 9, Force Awakens. 8, Revenge of the Sith. 7, Solo. 6, Rogue One. 5, Empire Strikes Back. 4, Attack of the Clones. 3, Last Jedi. 2, Return of the Jedi. And number 1, the OG, A New Hope. And I was like,
I like your list.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
It's random. It's random. But I was like, because when it was the other way, I was like, I mean, it's true chaos, but then I don't know. I maybe I'll go back the other way, and then Phantom will always be number 1. I don't know.
I think you should. That's what I don't have mine near me, so I can't. But I did mine where I took names. I took names out of a hat.
Oh, perfect.
I wrote them out. And
True chaos.
So I just did that, and I put in the order. And then after I did that, I just put in whatever order I wanted.
So like you picked one out, and that was number 11, right? Or
I went 11 to 1. Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
11, 1, and Last Jedi was I think in the middle of my list.
Mine was The Last Jedi. Everything else, number 10. The Rise of Skywalker, number 11. Because I'm just trying to bump it up.
Yeah.
And I did give the ratings, those ratings, because I did that with the ranking the live action shows where people were like, I can't decide between these ones, so I just was like, fine, I'll give them all the same number. And I think we had a tie we had a tie last year in this rankings, and we had a tie this year in the TV show rankings. And I decided to break the tie by asking one more person just to give me the ranking, and hopefully that they would pick something different. And actually, last year on this one, they picked Revenge of the Sith, which actually bumped it up higher than, because I think that was tied with maybe Rogue One or something. And that bumped it above whatever it was. So it is it's fun. It's fun. I like the list. It's definitive. You can't go back. It is what it is. And it's fun because it's not an individual list. It's all these stupid rankings combined that we put together for fun. It doesn't mean anything in the end of the day.
It means everything.
It means everything. So next year, Last Jedi fans, come at me because we're going to need your list in 2025 to prove Desi correct on The Last Jedi. And Brock too. But Brock, you had what do you have at 3? You had it pretty high. That would have been, yeah. So, all right, we're gonna go. Thank you all. Yeah.
Chance is now officially canon. But Andrew still is not.
Oh, yes. Suck it, Andrew.
Heidi, next year you're gonna put Last Jedi number 1.
Okay.
Sure. We should next season or next time we do this, it's we should do previously on ranking and then do all this. And the last clip is Heidi going, okay.
and then we start the show. She's like, and then we start the show. She's like, I didn't do it.
That's not my favorite line from Star Wars. Okay.
Okay.
Force Awakens has the best jokes, I think, in the sequels. Mostly I'm talking about, oh, you're so brave, and that's not how the Force works, and things like, oh, and oh, you're cold. I think those are the 3 best lines. And the red arm. 3PO and the red arm it's a really good bit.
I forget about that one.
It's such a stupid bit. But
You might not recognize me.
It's just it's really stupid, but I like it, and it's fine. Yeah. And it doesn't, it's such a throwaway thing that I love. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on this New Year's Day. I hope you have a great 2024 and you enjoy some new Star Wars content and old Star Wars content. And Brock, you were always scum.
Rebel scum.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.